Hey guys, this is Larry the tractor guy here. Hey, we've got a N540C seeding tool here that we're about to get ready to set this thing up to plant sesame. Okay, and so we've ordered and have the small grain meter segments that we're going to install in all 4 of these meters here on the rear of this seeding tool. We've never done this before, so it's kind of got to be a new one for us too. But we've got our parts here and we're kind of got things, getting things ready to go. These are the meter rolls, so to speak, that we ordered out of parts that are basically listed as sorghum or small grain, okay? And so we're going to get ready to install these small grain meters, and we'll show you what that looks like. First thing we have to do here is remove this meter shaft. Okay, so we're going to push this little spring-loaded latch down here and this one here, and then we can slide that meter roll out of our cartridge there. Okay, so these are our medium rolls, and we're going to change that out to the small grain. Okay, and the way we're going to do that is pretty cool little option. We're going to install all of these on that meter shaft, and then we're going to set this whole thing back down in there, okay, which is essentially going to take this complete cartridge and it's going to go down in here sort of like that. Okay, all right, and that's going to give us our meter for our small grain to plant this sesame. We've got all of our components here laid out, and Caleb, show them how one of these meter wheels snaps into that housing.
So it's pretty simple. You just spread it open just about like that, pop it right down in there like that.
Okay,
and then we'll slide that on the shaft here in a minute with the rest of them.
And we'll show you they have to go in a certain direction here, because we're going to basically take the motor off of this meter and install on this meter shaft after we build it. So we're going to have basically a whole meter assembly that when we get it put together, we can swap that out from season to season pretty easily. Keep in mind that this is the small grain, and that's why it's so much more narrow than the large grain. I was looking at that earlier. The segments are not really too much different. Okay, it's just a more narrow wheel, okay, or meter, so to speak. Okay, so we're going to get after that and build this shaft, and then we'll show you what that looks like. So we've got all of our little meter segments built here, and Caleb is putting those on the shaft now, and they're just going to slide up on that shaft. Now they do have to go a certain way because of the way that they set down in the meter housing on the drill. Okay, and so, but they do just kind of float on that shaft as we're assembling that. And then we will put these little bushings on the ends, okay? And then we've got a snap ring that kind of holds that bushing in place so that we can install the small grain low rate meter on the drill. I'm going to take one of these over here and I'm going to show you how that will fit down in the meter housing, okay? So this is going to set in here just about like that, okay? Just like that. And we will basically set that whole meter shaft down into that meter housing, and they should just slide in there just like that. So that takes up that space that's in between for the higher rate roll, and converting this over with this to the low rate roll. One of the things that's really unique about this 540C seeding tool is the fact that you can plant on 10-inch spacing or 20-inch spacing. And that is really easy to do, okay? So looking at the top side of the drill where all your primaries are coming into these Y housings, okay? You can take this little tab out here, okay? Pull that out, flip that around, stick it in. You're basically putting the long end of that back into that secondary chamber, okay? Now that's gonna shut this secondary off on the back rank, okay? So we would shut off the back rank by installing all of these in down through this drill, and put that on 20-inch seed spacing. Something pretty cool too is that you have to go into the computer and into the display and tell the controller that you have changed it over to 20-inch spacing. Reason being is because all of your meters here are still feeding the same primaries, okay? And so keep that in mind, that you do have to go in and calibrate and tell the display that you are wanting to plant on 20-inch spacing. We're going to show you real quick how the motor is installed on the meter here, or actually the drive box. Okay, so that's just going to slide up on the shaft. Okay, sort of like that. And when you push it all the way, it does snap in here on the end of the drive. I'm going to stick that on there, snap it in just like that. Just snaps in right there, and you spread these apart to pull that off. Okay, to swap that back to your higher rate roll. We've set our low rate complete meter up in here. Okay, and if you can see kind of how I've got that setting in there, all you've got to do is kind of slide these meter housings, you know, to the right position to line them up in the existing meter housing. Because remember, this housing takes up that gap and that space in there where it leaves just the little meter wheel there for our lower rate. Okay, so we're just going to snap that in there. Just like that. Line our motor up over here. Okay, that's it. It's all snapped in, okay? And now we have installed our low rate meter, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and install the next 3 meters here, and then we'll go into calibrate and put some seed in and go under our calibration. I wanna make mention of something that we ran into here that we weren't thinking about, but anyway, I'm gonna share this with you real quick. Tech tip of the day. There is, on each meter, there's 4 meters on the back of this seeding tool. So the left meter on this tank is about 2-inch shorter shaft than the meter to the right, okay? And same thing on the tank on the right here. So the left side of the tank is a short shaft. The right side is a longer shaft. So keep that in mind when you're assembling your meter shafts here, that we do have longs and shorts. So if you're ordering those parts through normal parts, make sure that you get the right shaft so that everything will go together like it's supposed to. I wanted to show you something real quick. We were installing a meter on this tank, and we were having a lot of trouble fighting that, getting it back down in there, and it felt like it was really tight. And so I got to looking here, and there's a lot of wheat down in the cups here, okay? And so just remember, if you're fighting that and it feels like it's really tight, don't go ahead and force that in there. Go ahead and pull that back out and clean all the debris out of those cups, okay? So we got all of our meters installed, and we're putting some Sesame in the commodity tank now. And then we'll go up and look on the display and set this up to plant 3 pounds of Sesame on 10-inch spacing, okay? And then we'll run our calibration, and then we'll also do a meter rate verification to verify what the meter is putting out. We're in the tractor now looking at the display. We're gonna go ahead and set this up to do our Sesame, okay? And so we're looking at our Sesame, or our main setup page, to change it to Sesame. Okay, we're gonna plant it on 10-inch spacing, so we want to choose dual rank. Okay, we are going to plant with the low rate roll, so we're going to use the low rate 16mm roll. We're going to go ahead and select that. Okay, and then over here on crop, there's not going to be a crop for specifically for Sesame. Okay, so we're going to use the flax as our crop. Okay, so we've chosen the flax there, and that's really irrelevant to the calibration because it's just a product name, okay? But so we're going to use that for our Sesame, all right? And then when we get to this page, we're going to set up our alarms, okay? And main thing that I wanted to point out, this is a important tip here, is the blockage alarm setup, because we don't know how well the blockage sensors are going to pick up this Sesame. Okay, so we're going to select that, and we're going to turn, usually this thing's up around 5 or 6 on our sensitivity. So we're going to turn our sensitivity all the way down as low as it'll go. Okay, that way we're not setting off alarms because we can't see that little bitty seed going through that blockage sensors. These blockage sensors are relative flow. Okay, so it's looking at flow as well as looking at seeds. It's really not counting seeds, but it needs to see a pretty good volume of flow. So we're just turning that down to keep from getting nuisance alarms all day long when we're planting this sesame. Okay, so we're going to do that, and then we'll get out of that, and then we're going to go down to diagnostics and calibrations, and we're going to go to our calibrations. And here in a few moments, we're going to go ahead and do our meter calibration. And then after that, we're going to go to procedures, and we're going to do a meter verification to verify that we're doing that 3 pounds per acre. We didn't quite make it to our calibration procedure on the N540C planting sesame because we just got rained out. Check this out. It is raining like cats and dogs. So we'll follow up another day, so stay tuned and we'll get back to this on a better day. So we got around the thunderstorm that passed through earlier today. We're back out on the N540C tool, getting it set up ready to plant some sesame. You can see the blue skies back in the northeast, and so we're out here in southwest Oklahoma area, and we're going to get this drill ready to plant some sesame. Couple things that I want to talk about real quick, just a couple of quick settings also with sesame, is our gates here. So here's our meter gate, okay, and we have to set that for small grain, okay. So the top one here is going to be B, C, and D, okay. So we've got to go to B with our meter gate, okay, to shut that opening down so that that little seed does not have as big of an opening to come through, okay. So to do that, we've got to push that down, and I don't know if you can hear that, but there's a little detent in there, and when you push that down, you can feel that, okay. So I can feel those notches in that little detent, and that's going to put us in the right position for our meter gate for small grain application, which our sesame would be considered a small grain. Okay, larger grain, you would want to open the door basically all the way up. Something else I would like to make mention of really quick on a pre-season cleaning of the drill or end of season cleaning of your drill, be sure and get an air blower and blow these little tracks out here, okay. That'll make that easier to be able to tell what position you are on your little detent there, okay. And then the next setting we want to talk about is the air, okay. So for small grain, the only setting that we really have to go by is using the sorghum setting for our air pressure, okay. And what I mean by that is when we turn the fan on, it pressures up these tanks, and then it also pushes air, if you can see under here. I'm going to show you real quick. So here's your big air primary tubes here, okay, and they're coming back in and tying into what I call the plenum, okay. And on this plenum, this air plenum, okay, that air is coming through this area right here, and it's basically blowing that air past this venturi, okay. And as it's passing through that venturi, your seed is falling in here, being metered in here, okay. And remember, we've got that set at a rate of 2 pounds per acre, and so we're going to meter that sesame right into this venturi. The air is going to take the sesame seeds through the secondary hose here, okay, and then out to our openers here. So there's about somewhere around 110,000 to 115,000 seeds per pound of sesame, okay. That's sort of what it takes to make a pound of sesame, okay. And so we're planting that at a rate of 3 pounds per acre, okay. So that's a lot of sesame seeds. We're also going to plant this sesame at about 1 inch deep at the customer's request. Now the reason we're planting it that deep is because he's got a pivot, and he's going to water this sesame up, okay, and got plenty of water to do that with, so that'll work out real good for him. Typically, from what I know about sesame, you usually plant sesame on dry land right around 1/2 inch, okay, and it is really tough to get that up. So you want to make sure that you've got good moisture and that you plant that at the right depth when you're planting sesame, okay. So we're going to continue on with our calibration process and show you what that looks like. There is a latch right here that will hold the plenum back out of your way so that you can hang your bag here to do your calibration. Okay, so basically you'll just push that past and roll your lock back down like this. Okay, now it's latched and it's out of your way, so you've got plenty of clearance right here. So just remember that. Something else that we're noticing that is when we put our small grain meters in, we have an extra little piece here that sticks up sort of in the way. And if you notice, that will come in contact of your latch right there, because this is how you open it. So your latch is in the open position. Now it will hit that, so you've kind of got to be careful and turn your latch just a little bit to clear that when you close your door. Okay, otherwise you will could possibly break something on your small grain meter segment housing here. Okay, so we're on our main screen up here in the tractor cab now on the N540C, and we've already got our rates. We got everything set up. We're just going to do a 3-pound rate of Sesame. We've got our black roll entered in there. We've kind of got everything set the way we want here. We've got to turn our PTO on here because this is an electric drive. Okay, so I've got my PTO turned on. All right, now we have to turn it on here. Okay, so that we can have active electricity back to our drive motors that drive our meters. Okay, so now we're going to go into calibrations. We're going to go into meter calibration. Okay, we're going to do the manual calibration here. Okay, it's giving us a list of things here that it has to meet. One being our wheel speed must be 0, EPG or our generator must be active, in which it is. Okay, and it says to ensure all of these prerequisites are made. Blower must be off, plenum must be in calibration position, slide gates must be open, catch bags must be installed for all the sections to be calibrated. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and hit next. We're going to just calibrate one at a time since we only have one bag. Okay, now I will make mention of this real quick, that if you were in a hurry and it wasn't a big deal about your pounds per acre and you wasn't too concerned about meter to meter, there is a little bit of variation between meters, obviously, because they're their own independent meter, these 4 meters. Okay, so you could go in there and manually enter in the cal number. In other words, we could just calibrate the left wing, and then we could go put the cal number in for the left, center, and right wing, the same as the left wing. Okay, we could use that cal number, in other words, to calibrate all the meters. But today we're going to go ahead and calibrate all 4. That way they have their own cal numbers that are consistent with this 3-pound of Sesame that we're wanting to shoot for. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and check the box. Okay, now we can go ahead and hit next here, and it's telling us here that it's got a default number of 50 RPMs. We're just going to leave that alone. Okay, and it says prepare meter equipment for calibration, install the catch bag. We're going to go back and do that. First of all, look at this one. It says prime meters for 2 revolutions and empty the product from the collection bag. Let's talk about that just for a second. Okay, that one to me is pretty important when we're only going to do a 3-pound rate of Sesame. Okay, so we really want to make sure that those little meter segments are full prior to calibration. It's not such a big deal on wheat or something like that on large grain, but it is a pretty big deal on Sesame. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that, and then we're going to zero the scale and check the weight of our bag. I'm going to show you a little trick about that back on the back of the tool. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and hit next. Okay, now it's going to let us go ahead and calibrate the meter. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that now. So let's go back to the back of the tool. We're going to hang our bag. Your bag fits up in this little slot right there. Okay, sort of like that. And if you notice on this meter, it's a lot more narrow, so you may have to use your cinch here to pull that bag up a little closer. And the wind's blowing just a little out here today, so we don't want to lose any Sesame seeds if we can keep from it. Okay, so we're just going to fill the meter real quick. I'll show you where the switch is. So the switch is right here that will turn our meters. Okay, And remember, I've got it set in the cab that we're only doing the far left meter at this time. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and flip the switch and you'll see the Sesame begin to collect in the bag. Okay. All right, so it's set to turn the meter 2 revolutions, okay, to prime the meter. And remember, I talked about that being very important since we are just doing a 3-pound rate, 3 pounds per acre. Okay, and so we're gonna go down through here and go ahead and prime all these meters, and then we'll begin calibration, and I'll show you a couple little tech tips about that. Okay, this is something I'd like to point out really quick while we're priming meters. Okay, something I like to do is make sure that when we're priming meters, you can take a look here, make sure that you have seed coming out of every meter. This would be a really good time to do that. Okay, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. Go ahead, Caleb. Okay, if you can see, we got seed coming out of every meter. Okay, the reason that I like to do that is because if you had something that was causing an obstruction in your tank, maybe some sort of a blockage or something you didn't see that was in the tank prior to putting seed in, now would be a good time to find that rather than waiting till you're in the field and it's go time. We're planting what they call a black sesame, okay? And so it looks like that. You can see how small those little seeds are. Okay, so it's very important that we get those meters filled during calibration and get a good weight on this, since we are just going to do right around 3 pounds per acre is what the customer wants. I think he's got about 500 pounds of seed, and that's right around $5,000 worth of seed. So that's a pretty critical step there to take advantage of, making sure your meters are filled before calibration. Very important tip when you're calibrating one of these drills, especially on a low rate, expensive seed. Want to do this 3-pound deal, prime the meters. We've got that done. We're ready to calibrate. We really want to get as true of a weight as we can get on our product calibration, okay, as far as weighing that product. So I'm going to show you real quick. We've got our scales hanging here. Okay, there's a little hook here on the ladder to hang your scales from. Okay, I've got my scales zeroed out right now. Okay, but we're going to go ahead and hang our bag on that, and we're going to try to see what our bag weighs. So our bag weighs almost 2 pounds. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and find that sweet spot there and go ahead and zero our scales. Okay, so now our scale is going to be minus that weight, so it's 0 now. When we pull the bag off, now we're minus 1.63 pounds. Very important step. Don't miss that step if you're trying to shoot for a low rate and come out anywhere close to where you need to be. So now we're calibrating. Caleb's over there holding the cal switch, and as you can see, Sesame is going into our collection bag here. Okay, and that meter should stop turning somewhere between 0 and 100. Okay, and so you just continue to hold on the calibration switch until the meter stops turning. This little motor over here that's turning right now during calibration and even during running the machine, that is your agitator motor. Okay, so that is basically has a little paddle inside of the commodity tank here, and it's sweeping back and forth across that seed at the bottom of the meter, making sure that our seed doesn't bridge on it. It's a good time to check that basically during calibration too. Make sure that everything's turning on your agitator. Meter stopped turning. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pull our bag and weigh that product real quick. Okay, so that product weight, you can see that, 4.59 pounds. We're going to go key that in the display, and that'll give us a true cal number for that far left meter. So 4.56 pounds. So it looks like that the meter turned the full revolution. It went to 100 revolutions. So we're going to go ahead and hit next on the display. Okay, now it's giving us an option to key that weight in. So we're going to hit that drop down bar. We're going to key in 4.56. Hit OK. All right, hit next. Okay, and there is our cal number right there. If you can see that, 0.3803 is our cal number for the far left wing or the far left meter. Okay, so just remember that it's really important that we fill that meter, that we weigh that bag prior to calibration so we get a correct weight. And then also remember that we could go in there and manually key that same number into the other 3 meters, okay? And it would come out relatively the same, but probably on a perfect day when we're really shooting for the exact amount out of every meter, we're gonna go ahead and calibrate all 4 meters. So we've got our second bag here, our second collection sample, and it's 4.54, okay? And I think our last was 4.56, okay? So we're not very far off, so it does show to be true that we could take this cal number and put it in the rest of our meters and probably come out just fine. So we got our calibration done on all 4 meters, and if you can see those numbers there between left wing, left center, right wing, the cal numbers are relatively the same, okay? So I'm pretty confident that we got a good calibration on this. So we're gonna go ahead and go in and do a meter verification real quick to verify our meter to make sure that it's actually gonna do what we've calibrated it to do. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and cancel that. Okay, cancel that. We're gonna go into procedures here. We're gonna go to meter verification. Okay, we're gonna begin procedure. And we're gonna do the stationary method today. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and hit next. Okay, and then we're going to make sure the blower's off, make sure the machine, run machine to loosen product. We've already done that. Everything's at 0, so we're going to go ahead and do, let's go ahead and do that left center. So we're going to check that one. We'll do the left center, go ahead and hit next. Okay, and it's telling us to 0 our scale, which we've already done. And then we're going to install our bag, make sure our gate's open, all that's correct. We're going to go ahead and hit next. Okay, now we're going to have to put in a speed, okay, and an area. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do an acre, but we're going to put a mile per hour in there, so we're going to say 5 miles an hour. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and do 1 acre. Okay, there's our 1 acre, and then we're going to go ahead and hit next. Okay, and it's going to tell us to hold down the calibration switch until meter stops running. Okay, now the reason I wanted to do the full acre is because we're shooting for 3 pounds per acre. Okay, if you were doing bigger rates, say you were doing wheat at 75 pounds, well obviously that bag's not going to hold 75 pounds. Okay, so you're going to have to do 1/4 of an acre or something like that, or come up with a shorter distance. Okay, but for today we want that 3 pounds, so we're going to do the full acre, and we're going to go back and show you how that's done. So we've got our bag hung on our left center meter that we're going to verify here, and Caleb's going to go ahead and hit that switch. Okay, and he said in the procedure to hold down the calibration switch or the meter rotation switch until the meter stops turning, and then we're going to weigh the bag, and if we've got everything right, we should come out with 3 pounds, and we come out with 0.75, okay, on our scale weighing our product. Okay, now think about that just a little bit. We're wanting to do 3 pounds per acre, but we're only coming out with 0.75 pounds in our bag. Now keep in mind, we're only checking 1 meter here, okay? We've got 4 meters on the back of this tool, and this is a 40-foot tool, okay? So if you do the math, that comes out to 3 pounds per acre, okay? So we're spot on for our target rate, and we're gonna go ahead and put this machine in the field and go to work. Hey guys, check out Larry the Tractor Guy videos here, other videos here, subscribe here, and buy all your John Deere parts here.
We'll make it work. I think
We're gonna have to make it.
we'll make it work. Come on, let's go.
We need to make
You need some food.
Y'all already burned me out.
Some
He's sitting in the sun over here, man.